to run through what we've been doing in the first half of the year in terms of overseas tourism, and then to talk about some of the challenges that we're facing and the approach that we're taking in relation to those before I pass over to the Minister. So look, just to recap in relation to that, last year was a stellar year for Irish tourism, the best year ever of strength. I felt in every part of the country. Overseas tourists spent €6.1 billion, and that doesn't include carrier receipts. That's the cash that went into the tills in accommodation, attractions, activities, events, up 10%, driven by 11.2 million visitors, and that's the figure for the island of Ireland, by the way. It's about 10.5 million to the Republic of Ireland. And again, across the island, 325,000 jobs have been supported, over 260,000 of those in the Republic of Ireland. So again, Tourism Ireland being the agency that markets the whole island of Ireland abroad. Now, the figures we have available are for the first 5 months of 2019. A busy slide this, but the key figures to note are volume business is up in the first 5 months of the year by 3.7% overall. And it really is a story of two halves, really. The North American market continues to power ahead, 9.1% growth in North America, and our long-haul areas up 7.2%, very strong growth. In fact, our growth in North America is still outpacing the number of people travelling abroad from North America on holiday, so still gaining share there. And what we're really pleased to see, visitors from mainland Europe up 3.2% and from Great Britain up by 0.8%, given the current economic climate. There's no question that we face a choppier climate in relation to this part of the world. And if you take Great Britain, Germany and France, they're 3 of our top 4 markets, and certainly facing to more uncertain territory for those in the second half of the year. Now, those are the visitor numbers. We have spend data for the first quarter that's already out. That shows spend down 4% in the first 3 months of the year, but bear in mind that doesn't include the important month of Easter, which fell in different periods last year, so that will get corrected in the second half of the year. So spend down 4% for the first quarter, but that will see an increase in April. Now, I want to thank the Minister just running through the first 6 months of this year. There was additional investment put into the Overseas Marketing Fund of approximately €10 million, which really enabled us to go out with a very strong Ireland message throughout the first part of the year. And I'll take you through just some of the key highlights of what we did. Well, we launched a brand new campaign, our first one in 7 years, called Fill Your Heart with Ireland. And the additional investment in our top 4 markets of the United States, Germany, France and Britain allowed us to hit large numbers of people, 72 million in the United States, 16 million in Germany, 18 million in France and 18 million in the UK. And those are across major channels we have been on for a while. So in the USA on the left hand side, CBS, Fox, NBC and ABC, and we were back on television in Great Britain for the first time on major channels like Sky, ITV, Channel 5 and Channel 4, hitting 40% of all ABC One adults in our target audience. In addition to that, we did a lot of campaigns with carriers, because this year is really about trying to push business into the seasons, quarter 1 and quarter 4, and also into the regions as well. So you'll see campaigns with the likes of Air France into Cork, Glasgow, Donegal, Ryanair into Shannon and Knock. Also work with Irish Ferries of the UWP8 craft as well. So again, people who travel by ferry more likely to stay longer and spend more than people who come by air. So we levered an additional €7 million from the carriers in matching funding in relation to some of those campaigns, and worked with other partners around the world really in amplifying the Ireland message. The Neiman Marcus luxury brand in the US allowed us to amplify the brand in 6 US cities, for example. Also big companies like Lidl coming on board with Ireland offers in 3,200 stores. Tour, one of the biggest tour operators in Germany, Verizon over in Canada, and Hearst up in Canada as well. So working with travel partners, our partners not in the travel space, to amplify the Ireland message. We had the industry out on the ground abroad as well, which is really important. Despite the fact that we live in a digital world, we were out in the US on sales missions in the first half and will be in the second half of the year. Working with examples like the new Ryanair Cologne to Knock route, again, pushing that sort of regional message around Ireland. Celtic Connections in Glasgow, Caravan and Motor Trade in Stuttgart, ITB in Berlin, and some of our newer markets in the UAE, for example, where we've got double daily access from Emirates, 11 flights a week with Etihad, and also 11 a week from Qatar as well. So we were out there in January, and we had our biggest ever sales mission out to China in May with 26 companies covering Beijing, Shanghai, Guangzhou and Chengdu. Our China visitors last year topped 100,000 for the first time, and we've set out our stall to double that. So the key message here is that while we live in a highly digitised world, particularly in the travel and tourism space, that people-to-people part is very important. As is traditional publicity, we've got 22,000 international media in our database that we're regularly sending out message about what's going on in Ireland, what's coming up. But we do invite in anything between 800 and 1,000 of those in conjunction with our colleagues here in Fáilte Ireland. And if you were to buy the publicity, only a small sample of what you see here in major publications like Marie Claire, Forbes, Bella Europa, Condé Nast Traveller, this year we expect the value of that to be €350 million. So it's very, very significant and a very active programme in place during the year. Our St Patrick's Day Global Greening Project this year expanded beyond all expectations. We had 470 landmarks around the world lit up green for St Patrick's Day, tens of millions in PR value around the globe. A lot of this picked up on national television in various countries, not just in traditional markets that I mentioned earlier on, but also in new markets. One of our biggest ones this year being Victoria Falls in Zambia, but that got a lot of global TV coverage. 110 million social media impressions around St Patrick's Day, and 58,586 media articles from the Global Greening Campaign in its 10th year alone. And last but by no means least, on the digital footprint, a really important part from the tourism perspective, because if you take a market like Great Britain, for example, 93% of people travel and just book online their whole holiday by themselves. They don't rely on a travel agent or tour operator. Last year we had 20 million visits to Ireland.com. That's translated into 14 different languages across the world. This year our visits are up 13.5%. An additional 1.5 million visits, which again reflects the additional investment we put into TV and pushing people onto the Ireland.com platform to book a holiday. I suppose the most significant part really though is the integration with social media, and you can see our followers here across the various platforms around the globe, not just in the Western world but also in China as well, where these ones aren't available. And this has been one of the more significant ones. Facebook, 4.3 million fans. We're the number 4 agency in the world on that. I mean, all of these people here have an average of 220 friends each, and we know who they are, and we know where they live, and we know what they like, because they tell us everything, which is great about this particular platform. But if we can get everybody just to like one image or story once and share it, we actually connect with an audience of 1 billion people. So that's what gives Ireland an added advantage in that digital space. So, as we head into the second half of the year, I mean, there are 5 real key challenges. I mean, first of all, the trading environment which we find ourselves in is far more challenging than it was before. There's a far later booking pattern with consumer uncertainty out there in the international marketplace. Competitiveness is really important for Ireland on the world stage. The air access picture is more challenging than it's been in previous years. And Brexit I'm going to talk about fairly shortly. We've said a lot about that in the past number of months. But as we head towards the 31st of October, more challenges loom. So just a number of the policy issues that are out there that are impacting on our business. Well, the government announced Ireland's Global Footprint 2025, which is an effort to double Ireland's global footprint internationally. And the green dots are where all the new Ireland consulates and embassies are opening up around the globe. And we're working very closely with the Department of Foreign Affairs to amplify the message in these markets. From a Tourism Ireland perspective this year, we've doubled our investment in China. We'll have a new presence in Hong Kong by the end of the year. We're also working very closely with the embassy in Japan as well around the Rugby World Cup. And the biggest ever Irish investment in a new embassy in Japan will see Tourism Ireland place somebody in there by the end of this year and establish a presence on the west coast of the States for the first time in over 10 years as well. We've worked very closely with the Minister and his officials on the Tourism Action Plan. We had a very good meeting with the industry and the 2 ministers last week, looking at new targets to keep tourism growing on the current trajectory and the challenges that are there for the next number of years. The air access picture deserves a little bit of comment, and these figures here, by the way, are the winter-spring seats for this period that lasts from the end of October 2018 into the end of March 2019, and the summer air access pattern, which involves 605,000 seats every single week. Now, this figure was not as high as we thought. We thought it would be nearly 5%. It was up 2.5%, which is still good. But there are a number of factors that are weighing heavily on the air access picture. First of all, we've got the whole area of the 737s, which are grounded. And that's impacted, for example, on Norwegian Airlines, which no longer has a service running into Belfast, Cork or Shannon, and has reduced services going into Dublin. We've also seen the number of, Aer Lingus had delays in the delivery of its craft, which meant that the new Montreal service into Dublin didn't happen this summer. That's been postponed to 2020, and it had to reduce some of the frequency on some of its existing US services from the likes of Minneapolis, etc. On the other hand, we did have new services that I mentioned from Minneapolis and also from Dallas with American Airlines, which really does help in that summer schedule. Now, as we go into winter, that 737 issue is there. Yields are extremely poor in the airline industry at the moment. We're very fortunate to have the likes of Aer Lingus and Ryanair carrying 80% of our traffic. We're healthy situation, but some of our other partners around the globe on the airline front are not in as a secure situation. We've seen the likes of Lufthansa post very heavy losses, the likes of Etihad as well. So they're fragile, and we are likely to see a slight reduction in air access capacity into Ireland this winter, given what's going on in that international space. And that's a real headline figure when it comes to tourism performance. We have launched a new review. This was launched about 2 weeks ago, a Great Britain review looking out to 2025. There is the capacity over the next number of years to increase holiday revenue by 25%, and there are a number of tasks that have been set out for the industry in that respect. I mean, the key challenge there is what's going to happen on the 31st of October, and none of us know that for sure. But what Tourism Ireland has done, 3 years ago we established a Great Britain-based Brexit task force. We have key leaders from the UK and Irish tourism industry working together to establish what is going on. But I suppose the comfort that we take is that the air and sea access position from Britain is very stable at the moment. We have, for example, Irish Ferries investing in new craft at WB Yates. We have the biggest ever investment in Irish tourism at Centre Parks in Ireland, I should say, opening this month. And really, we've actually seen a small increase in the number of people coming from Britain, which is amazing over the last 18 months. But still very choppy waters as we head into the whole Brexit scenario towards the end of October. So that campaign will be going out to over 100 million people across a lot of main channels. Again, you can see there on your left hand side, and the Minister hopefully in the next number of weeks will be launching our main autumn campaign. But just to give you a sneak preview, we have sales missions heading out to the west coast of the States, 3 cities in Canada. We'll be out in China and Hong Kong and Qatar in the second half of the year, and across our traditional markets like France, Germany, Italy as well. We have some major platforms that the industry will be out on the ground selling for 2020. On a positive note, it has to be said, it's the biggest ever investment in Irish tourism history, €233 million. Centre Parks will open in County Longford at the end of this month, and we wish them every success. So look, just to wrap up, we've had a good volume start for the year, a lot of challenges out there in relation to spend, consumer uncertainty, but we have a very strong promotional platform out around the globe towards the latter part of this year to continue to drive that off-season business, to continue to drive it into the regions and set us up well then for our marketing plans launch for 2020 in December. So happy to pass over to the Minister and take any questions after that.